It was 3 in the morning when I heard shouting outside, angry voices, panicked footsteps, and one phrase that made me smile in the dark. "Why don't we have water?" Little did my neighbour know, this was exactly the chaos I'd been waiting for. If you've ever had a neighbour who thought your property was theirs to use, you're going to love this. Hit that like button, subscribe, and stick around, because today you're about to hear how I turned a greedy old man's water theft into the downfall of his entire livelihood. When you buy a new home, you imagine new beginnings, fresh paint, new furniture, and maybe even friendly neighbours. For me, it started with a padlock, not a door lock, not a modern security system, just a rusty padlock hanging on the main door of what would soon be my house. I had just purchased it from some old family friends who desperately needed cash and had been out of the country for 3 years. Because they needed a quick sale, I got it for a price that in my city, in the capital no less, is unheard of. Of course, there was a catch. This place was what realtors politely call a fixer-upper, the kind of house where renovation plans had started, and then someone just vanished halfway through, leaving dust, tools, and half-finished walls behind like an abandoned film set. And there was another thing, no gate, no barrier, just an open driveway inviting the entire neighborhood to wander right in. On the very first day I moved in, I found a motorbike, just casually parked in my garage like it lived there. No note, no knock, just entitlement. I didn't overthink it. I rolled it out to the road, went about my business, and that same day had a proper gate installed. A small investment for my peace of mind. That evening there was pounding on my brand new gate. Through my window I saw a man, mid-40s maybe, face twisted in irritation, banging on the metal like it had personally insulted him. I didn't answer. 15 minutes later he gave up, muttered something under his breath, and wheeled his bike away. Welcome to the neighborhood, I thought. After that, things settled. Sure, people sometimes blocked my gate, not realizing the place wasn't abandoned anymore, but a no parking sign fixed that problem. Then, there was the man next door. He was older, somewhere in his late 60s, living in a 3-story house that looked like it had been standing since the 80s. The bottom floor was his, the upper 2 rented out to tenants, and from the very beginning I knew he didn't like me. Apparently, when the previous owners sold me the house, he'd been furious, complaining to them, voicing his concerns, whatever those were. They warned me about him, but I wasn't worried. I'm 6 feet tall, I have 3 dogs, and frankly, I don't scare easily. One day, about 2 weeks in, I was taking a shower when I noticed something odd. My water pressure dropped, not just a little. It was like someone had turned a tap somewhere and sucked the life out of my pipes. Then I heard it, a low mechanical hum, faint but distinct, the sound of my neighbor's water pump. In our city, these pumps are essential for multi-story homes because public water pressure just isn't strong enough to reach the tanks on the roof. It could have been a coincidence, but my gut told me otherwise. So I tested it. I waited until his pump switched off, turned on my taps, and just like magic, the water pressure was back. That was suspicious. The more I thought about it, the more things clicked into place. When the house was abandoned for 3 years, water bills had mysteriously been higher than they should have been, even accounting for minor leaks. Everyone just assumed it was from the unfinished plumbing work. But now I was starting to think that at some point in those 3 years, this charming old neighbor had decided, why pay for my own water when I can just steal some from next door? And he didn't just stop when the house got sold. He probably assumed the new owner, me, wouldn't notice. Water is cheap here. Dirt cheap. Even with my neighbor stealing some, I was paying maybe $5 a month. But it wasn't about the money. It was about the principle. people like this, people who think they're entitled to your resources just because they can take them, they count on you being too nice or too busy to push back. That didn't sit right with me. For days, I weighed my options. I could confront him, risk a full-blown feud. I could go the legal route, slow, expensive, and honestly overkill for a few dollars in water, or I could get creative. And one night, as I lay in bed, I thought of the perfect plan. A plan that wouldn't require breaking into his property, wouldn't technically be illegal, but would hit him exactly where it hurt. I wasn't about to rush this. The best revenge isn't loud. It's patient, calculated, and perfectly timed. For 4 days, I kept watch. Every time my water pressure dropped, I glanced at the clock. Patterns emerged. His pump usually kicked in early in the morning or late at night, probably when he was filling his tanks for himself and his tenants. By the 5th day, on a Monday morning, the opportunity practically handed itself to me. I was in my yard when I heard it, the low, steady hum of his pump starting up. A slow smile crept across my face, casually, like I was just shooing away a stray dog or sweeping some dust. I walked to my main water supply. One twist of the valve, just a flick of the wrist, and my plan was in motion. Here's the thing about water tanks in my country. They have a ball valve that measures the water level. If the water level is low, the valve opens and sends a signal to the pump to start. Once the tank is full, the valve closes and the pump shuts off. But if there's no water coming in at all, the pump just keeps running, hour after hour. The motor overheats. It draws more and more electricity. And if you have old wiring, which my neighbour absolutely did, it's only a matter of time before something burns out. That was the weakness I was banking on. Around 3 a.m, my dog gave a soft bark, then went quiet like he'd heard something unusual. I peeked out the window. It was like watching the first act of a live drama. Lights flicked on in my neighbour's building. Doors slammed. I heard muffled voices, tenants speaking in low, urgent tones. Then the volume rose. A woman's voice cut through the night. Why don't we have water? And why is the power out too? Inside, I was grinning. Outwardly, I kept my face neutral, sipping my tea like nothing was happening. Within minutes, the hush turned into a storm. Tenants were yelling at the landlord, my neighbour. They wanted answers. They wanted them now. Here's the problem for him. In my country, tenant protection laws are no joke. Water and electricity are considered essential services. Cutting them off, intentionally or not, can lead straight to a police complaint. And that's exactly what happened. The next day, both tenants filed official complaints. This guy wasn't some wealthy property mogul. He was a retired mechanic. His only income came from renting out those 2 floors. The police slapped him with a $500 fine. Huge money here. On top of that, he was legally required to return the full security deposits to both tenants. And it got worse. He couldn't legally rent those units out again until 1. The wiring was brought up to modern standards. 2. The water system was fully repaired, both of which cost even more money. By the end of the week, one tenant had already moved out completely. The other was packing their bags. The old man was bleeding money, fast. With no income and unexpected repair costs looming over him, he had no choice but to move out himself. I later learned he was going to live with his daughter, from entitled neighbour to homeless landlord, in just a few days. A couple of days later, he showed up at my gate. His expression was interesting, calm on the surface, but I could see the tightness in his jaw. "Did you turn off your water the other day?" he asked. I gave him the most casual shrug in the world. "Oh yeah, my tank had a new leak in one of the pipes, so I shut it off until the plumber could fix it." The look in his eyes told me he knew the truth, but he couldn't prove it. He just nodded slowly. "Oh, okay," then turned and walked back inside. I never told him the full truth. I didn't need to. All that mattered was that he couldn't steal my water anymore, and he no longer had tenants to cause noise or trouble. The following week, I hired a plumber to reroute my pipes so nothing left my property. Permanent solution. And just like that, with a single twist of a tap, I'd solved my water theft problem and rid myself of a potentially nasty neighbor. 2 birds, 1 stone, and a long, deep, satisfying breath of justice. Sometimes revenge doesn't need to be loud, messy, or even directly confrontational. Sometimes you just have to turn a valve and let the universe handle the rest. Karma may take its time, but when it shows up, it's worth the wait. If this story gave you chills, smash that like button and tell me in the comments, what's the most satisfying revenge you've ever witnessed? And of course, subscribe for more stories just like this one. Trust me, you don't want to miss the next one.